Princess Anne, the royal family's strongest pillar, has just revealed something no one expected. After years of tireless service and silence, what she finally admitted left the palace shaken. This isn't just a headline. It's a heartbreaking truth that has stunned the entire royal family and the nation. The calm before the storm. For decades, Princess Anne has been the definition of stability within the royal family. Never one to seek attention, never one to crumble. She's known as the Soldier Princess, a title not given lightly. With over 500 public engagements every year, Anne has long been the quiet force holding things together, often working harder behind the scenes than anyone else. Her reputation as the most dependable royal wasn't just public praise, it was fact inside palace walls. But in recent months, something shifted. Her usually tight and relentless schedule began to loosen. Suddenly, events were being cancelled quietly, appearances shortened, and her energy, once sharp and commanding, looked dimmed. At a charity event earlier this year, many noticed she stood back more than usual, letting others lead. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. In May, a close palace insider reportedly said, "She's still showing up, but there's a tiredness we haven't seen before." These hints came during a moment when the royal household was already under strain. King Charles's ongoing health treatment, Catherine's extended recovery, and increasing public questions about the future of the monarchy. That's what made Anne's quiet shift so unsettling. When the family's most unwavering figure started to show signs of something deeper, it didn't go unnoticed. And what followed, nobody was ready for. The hidden struggle emerges. After months of whispers, the truth started to leak. Princess Anne had suffered a head injury after a serious horse-related incident at Gatcombe Park in June. Officially, it was called a minor concussion with memory loss, but sources close to the family hinted it was more serious than initially admitted. The palace, known for its guarded responses, released a short statement. It said she was resting and expected to make a full recovery. But the tone felt off, too formal, too fast. One quote stood out from Anne herself after she regained some memory. "I can't remember a single thing from that day." That line, simple but haunting, was shared widely. For someone like Anne, who's known for razor-sharp recall and control, it shocked both insiders and the public. Was this temporary? Could there be long-term effects? The questions only grew louder. More details started to surface. She had been airlifted to Southmead Hospital in Bristol, stayed under close observation for several days, and her return to duties was placed on indefinite pause, something unheard of for a woman who once worked through illness without blinking. What made this more devastating was the image contrast. The always composed, unshakable royal now facing a situation she couldn't fully control or even remember. The family said little, but their silence spoke volumes. There were no dramatic statements, just that eerie royal calm that hides emotional chaos underneath. This wasn't just an accident. It was a moment that revealed Anne's humanity, and how fragile even the strongest among them can be. The devastating announcement. The moment the palace finally confirmed the truth, the tone was chilling. In late June 2025, following weeks of speculation and growing concern, Buckingham Palace issued an official update. Princess Anne was suffering from post-traumatic memory loss as a result of a serious horse-related injury. Though they tried to keep the wording gentle, there was no hiding the gravity of the situation anymore. This wasn't just a knock to the head. It had left real, lasting effects, ones that would shake the family to its core. The public first saw Anne post-hospitalization during a quiet appearance at a private family function in early July. And even though she smiled and waved, something was different. Her eyes didn't hold the same sharpness. Her walk was slower. She appeared carefully shielded, surrounded closely by aides. She didn't speak to the press, highly unusual for a royal known for her dry wit and direct answers. According to one royal commentator, it was Anne, but not quite the Anne we remember. And then came the words that cut through everything. In a carefully prepared statement, Anne admitted, "There are things I simply cannot recall. It's unsettling, but I'm taking it one day at a time." That moment changed everything. Hearing those words from Princess Anne, the royal known for being bulletproof, was a jarring experience. For the public, it was heartbreaking. For the family, it was terrifying. Royal correspondents were quick to dissect her appearance, noting how emotionally restrained but visibly shaken she seemed. Body language experts highlighted her tightly clasped hands and her quick glances toward her daughter, Zara, who stayed close throughout. But it wasn't just the physical signs, it was the emotional message. Anne was in unknown territory, and for the first time in years, the family had no choice but to acknowledge it. The timing only made the impact heavier. With King Charles's treatment ongoing, Catherine, Princess of Wales, still recovering from her health battle, and the royal calendar already in flux, Anne's situation added another unexpected blow to a fragile moment. Her decision to speak publicly, even briefly, added weight to the announcement. She didn't want to, but she knew the truth had to come from her. This was no longer just a private medical matter. It had become a national moment of reckoning, proof that even the strongest royals can be shaken. And for Anne, it marked the start of a chapter filled with more questions than answers. The reaction from the royal family. Behind palace walls, the mood was somber. While the public received a polished, prepared version of events, the reaction inside the royal household was raw and emotional. Prince Edward was said to be the first informed directly after Anne's doctors updated the king. According to insiders, the reaction among senior royals was shock followed by complete silence. The woman they all leaned on, the sister who had always kept them steady, was now the one who needed support. King Charles, already facing a difficult treatment plan of his own, was reportedly devastated. He and Anne share a uniquely close bond, despite having different personalities. One source described his reaction simply. He was gutted. She's his anchor. While he kept up appearances, canceling only one engagement that week. His expression during a Windsor Castle appearance in July said more than words ever could. Distant, distracted, strained. Within hours of the news going public, family members, including Zara and Peter Phillips, gathered at Gatcombe Park. This wasn't a photo op. There were no cameras, no smiles, just family trying to make sense of something that didn't. A former palace aide revealed that Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie also reached out to Anne, sending private messages of support and offering to help with duties. The entire royal machinery, usually so formal and controlled, suddenly felt small and human. The atmosphere among the royal staff was equally shaken. Courtiers, many of whom had worked with Anne for over 30 years, were reportedly in disbelief. A senior member of her team was overheard saying, "She's the one who never breaks. She never needs help. This doesn't make sense." Schedules were thrown into disarray, and discussions began almost immediately about how to redistribute Anne's engagements in the coming months. What stood out most was the silence from certain corners. Prince William issued a brief note of support during an event, while Camilla stayed out of the spotlight altogether. And while Prince Harry and Meghan reportedly reached out privately, there was no public comment, only speculation. But perhaps that's the most telling thing of all. When Princess Anne falls, even those who've stepped away from the family feel it. This wasn't just a royal update, it was a wake-up call. The family's emotional core had been hit, and for a monarchy that thrives on appearances, the cracks were now impossible to ignore. Public disclosure versus private pain. When the palace confirmed Princess Anne's condition, the news exploded across front pages in minutes. Every major outlet ran headlines like, "Princess Anne suffers memory loss after horse incident," and "Royal Rock shaken. Nation holds its breath." But behind the sharp titles and breaking news banners was something quieter, something harder to grasp. Real pain, kept hidden for as long as possible. For Anne, this was unfamiliar territory. She has always drawn a hard line between her public duty and her private self. Now, that line was breaking down. The palace had no choice but to share the truth. The rumors had gone too far. But in sharing it, they also exposed one of the family's most guarded members at her most vulnerable. Royal insiders admitted she was deeply uncomfortable with the attention. One said, "She hates fuss. She doesn't want people feeling sorry for her." Despite that, the public reaction was overwhelming. Social media lit up with posts of sympathy and disbelief. Many recalled her decades of tireless service, pointing out that Princess Anne had never taken the easy road. One user wrote, "If even Anne is hurting, something's really not right in that family." Others shared personal stories about meeting her, how kind, witty, and sharp she'd always been. Still, Anne faced an impossible task. She had to stay composed in front of cameras, speak to crowds, and maintain her position, all while privately dealing with confusion, memory lapses, and the emotional shock of not remembering something as basic as how she got injured. Royal historian Dr. Eleanor James summed it up well. "This is not just about health. It's about identity. Anne has always defined herself by her duty. This shakes that foundation." And then there was the press. Tabloid coverage hovered dangerously close to invasive, with some stories speculating on the severity of her condition, future retirement, and even comparisons to past royal health crises. The palace pushed back gently, releasing only limited updates and asking for privacy. But in today's media cycle, that request often falls on deaf ears. This was more than a public health update. It was a window into the difficult balance between royal image and personal suffering. And for Anne, it became a test of how much one can endure, not just physically, but emotionally, when the world is watching. The impact on her work and influence. Princess Anne has always been the workhorse of the royal family. With over 20 active patronages, countless military affiliations, and near-daily engagements, she set a pace no other royal could match. But following her accident and memory loss, that rhythm came to a grinding halt. And for the palace, it triggered a quiet internal crisis. Almost immediately, several of Anne's summer appearances were either cancelled or reassigned. Events she'd led for decades, such as the Princess Royal's trust events and engagements with the Royal College of Midwives, were suddenly paused. Behind closed doors, staff began quietly shuffling schedules, reassigning her duties to junior royals, and coordinating with charities to adjust expectations. A senior palace aide admitted, "We've never had to restructure around Anne before. It's completely new territory." The emotional toll was just as heavy. For Anne, her public service wasn't just a job. It was her purpose. Being forced to pull back, even temporarily, was likely devastating. As a royal source shared, she feels like she's letting people down. She's not used to being the one who needs rest. That guilt, coupled with the fear of memory gaps, reportedly left her frustrated and, at times, withdrawn. Public perception also began to shift, not in a negative way, but in a deeply human one. Suddenly, people weren't just seeing the unshakable princess, they were seeing a woman confronting weakness and still trying to serve through it. It created a new kind of respect, a deeper connection. For some, it was the first time they truly saw Anne as more than just a royal. They saw her as someone struggling, but still showing up when she could. But as weeks turned into months, questions grew louder. Will Anne ever return to her full workload? Will she scale back permanently? Could this be the beginning of her slow withdrawal from royal life? The palace hasn't given clear answers, and maybe they can't. Because the truth is, no one knows yet. One thing, however, is certain. This moment has already become a turning point in how the world sees Anne. She's no longer just the tireless royal. She's the one who kept giving until her body said stop. And even in that pause, her influence continues. The emotional fallout in the family unit. The effects of Princess Anne's revelation didn't stay confined to official statements or cancelled schedules. It hit home, deeply. Inside the royal family, where emotions are often held behind formal smiles, the impact of Anne's condition caused a ripple of quiet grief, worry, and reflection. This was more than just concern over her health. It was a reminder that even their strongest aren't untouchable. Her husband, Sir Timothy Lawrence, has always stood quietly by her side, a calm, steady presence. But after the incident, insiders noted his rare displays of tension. One aide said, "He's been her rock for decades, but this shook him." He's protecting her fiercely now. The couple, who usually maintain a low profile, reportedly spent most of July in near isolation at Gatcombe Park, away from public eyes, focusing solely on her recovery. Her children, Zara and Peter, were also deeply affected. Zara, especially, was said to be heartbroken. She and Anne share not just a mother-daughter bond, but a deep friendship rooted in their love for horses, sport, and independence. At events where Zara appeared post-incident, she seemed more reserved, often avoiding cameras. Friends noted that she's carrying the emotional load her mother used to handle. Within the larger family, the mood turned inward. Prince Edward, Anne's closest sibling in terms of work ethic, reportedly spent several evenings with her after the news broke. His presence was one of quiet support, not to fix, but simply to be there. Meanwhile, King Charles, already under immense personal pressure due to his own health, was said to be emotionally overwhelmed. A friend of the king shared, "He's always leaned on Anne. Now he doesn't know who to lean on." And then there were the royal routines, the family meetings, ceremonies, and gatherings that suddenly felt heavier. The annual Balmoral trip, usually a time of relaxation and togetherness, took on a more somber tone this year. Conversations shifted. There was less laughter, more pauses, more silence. One royal observer put it simply, "The moods changed." They've all been reminded how fragile life really is. This emotional toll wasn't just personal. It began to alter how the family moved, slower, more carefully, more thoughtfully. Behind the pomp, a quiet grieving process was underway. And while none of them would speak openly about it, their faces, their energy, their absence from public events, it all spoke volumes. The broader royal implications. Princess Anne's struggle didn't just shake her family, It shook the institution. The monarchy is built on two things: stability and continuity. Anne embodied both. Her sudden vulnerability raised tough, uncomfortable questions about what happens when the most dependable link in the chain begins to fray. Internally, the palace was forced into a difficult position. Who steps in to fill her shoes? No one can match her work ethic or her commitment. While junior royals like Princess Beatrice and Eugenie have offered to help where they can, their presence lacks Anne's commanding experience. Even Prince Edward, while respected, already has his hands full supporting the king and queen. The vacuum left by Anne is one no one can easily fill. Then came the issue of public messaging. Should they reveal more about her condition or protect her privacy? The palace chose caution: short statements, no detailed updates, minimal media contact. But the public wanted more. That gap created a strange tension: sympathy for Anne, but growing curiosity about what's really happening behind the gates. There's also the broader narrative. The royal family is aging. With King Charles in treatment, Princess Catherine recovering from surgery, and now Anne facing a health crisis, it paints a picture of a monarchy in a delicate state. The younger generation is not yet fully in position to carry the weight, and the senior generation is showing clear signs of strain. As one commentator bluntly put it, this is a transitional era, and it's more fragile than they'll admit. From a public standpoint, this has shifted how people view royalty. Anne used to be seen as invincible. Now, she's human. That might hurt the monarchy's image in the short term, but in the long run, it could help. People don't want perfect. They want real. And Anne's honesty, even in limited words, offered something rare: vulnerability without theatrics. Finally, this incident forces the palace to rethink succession planning, long-term duty assignments, and how they emotionally support their own. Because if someone like Anne, known for pushing through anything, can be sidelined by trauma, the question now is, who's truly ready to lead, and who's quietly reaching their limits? This wasn't just a moment of personal crisis. It was a signal to the entire institution. The old way of doing things might no longer be enough. The turning point: recovery or reinvention. As Princess Anne's condition settled into the public's awareness, attention slowly shifted toward the future. What now? Would she recover and return to duty with the same energy she's always carried? Or was this the beginning of something different? A quiet reinvention, a subtle redirection of purpose. In August 2025, palace officials stated that Anne was resting comfortably and continuing to recover, but gave no further details. Behind the scenes, her schedule remained largely empty. Several of her key duties, including her leadership roles in the Royal Yachting Association and St. John Ambulance, were quietly handed to other royals or paused altogether. While this wasn't presented as permanent, those inside the palace began preparing for the possibility that Anne might not return to full capacity. And yet, knowing Anne's history, some still believe she will push through. This is a woman who once refused to take time off after surgery, showing up to engagements with her arm in a sling. Her work isn't just duty, it's her identity. A close friend was quoted saying, "If she can walk, she'll work." That's Anne, but this time is different. Memory loss is a cruel opponent, unpredictable, emotional, and out of her control. There are whispers that Anne may use this moment not to step back entirely, but to shift focus. She's long championed causes related to health, resilience, and emergency response. Now, some believe she may begin advocating for head injury awareness or mental health recovery, turning personal pain into public purpose. something deeply meaningful and long-lasting. But for that to happen, the royal family needs to support her differently. That means easing her obligations, giving her time and space, and, perhaps most importantly, allowing her to define what recovery looks like on her own terms. As the public watches with concern and admiration, the story unfolding isn't about weakness, but reinvention. Still, the suspense lingers. No one knows yet how far her recovery will go, or how much her future as a working royal will change. All we know is that something has shifted, and Princess Anne's path will never be quite the same again. The unwritten future and what it means for us. Now, with the dust beginning to settle, one question remains: what comes next? For Princess Anne, the road ahead is still uncertain. Her memory may return fully, or it may not. She might slowly return to her duties, or quietly reshape her role behind the scenes. But what's certain is that this moment will leave a mark, not just on her, but on the entire royal family. The impact of this story is bigger than a single headline. It touches something deeper. For decades, Anne was the unshakable support beam of the monarchy. Watching that support falter, even for a moment, reminds us how fragile even the strongest traditions can be. The public, often skeptical of the royals, has responded with genuine concern. Why? Because for once, the mask slipped, and what they saw underneath was human. Her legacy may now take on a new shape. Instead of being remembered only for her workload, Anne might be remembered for her resilience, for showing that even those who seem invincible can fall, pause, and slowly rebuild. And in doing so, inspire others to do the same. This moment also forces the monarchy to rethink its future. If Anne can be sidelined so suddenly, what does that mean for succession planning, health transparency, and public expectations? The royals are no longer symbols carved in stone. They are living people, aging, enduring, adapting. One royal historian recently said, "In the past, the monarchy represented permanence. Now, it represents resilience. That shift is subtle but powerful. And Anne's struggle, though painful, may be what helps carry the monarchy into its next era. Not with pomp, but with honesty." The final question now: will this experience bring the family closer, force change within the palace, or simply be remembered as a painful chapter in royal history? Only time will tell. The truth is still unfolding, and the future for Princess Anne and the royal family remains unwritten. As Princess Anne faces this deeply personal battle, the royal family stands in quiet shock. The revelation has changed everything. Will she recover fully? Will her role ever be the same? One thing is clear: this moment will define the next chapter, not just for Anne, but for the monarchy itself.